Hello everyone, this is part 34 of What If Naruto Got Lost During His Training TS, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. The defenders, seeing that one demon that had attacked them earlier returned, and with reinforcements, panicked. Sure, they didn't let up in their attack, but something in them snapped. They would attack with all they had, not to defend their country, but to try their hardest to survive. The shinobi once again left the safety of the walls and attempted to engage the incoming enemy. These 4 units were far too fast for the archers, and were also far too fast for the jutsu to hit. They were going to combat them using hand-to-hand combat. Chakra-powered fists and feet met chakra-powered fist, feet, and weapons. The shinobi were being cut down one by one. Sure, they had the number, but if fear had forced them into forgetting how to use teamwork, there was no way that they were going to win. When Emiko finally had enough with the weaklings trying to take her out, she jumped away from them and let loose with some Fuyutin jutsu, using her fans to provide the wind to make her jutsu work. With a wave of her fans, she sent gusts of wind at the shinobi that had come to face her. The winds blew some of the shinobi away, and tore gouges in the boss of the rest, but some managed to erect mud walls to lessen the damage just in time. Once their mud walls were dropped, they tried to send some lightning and fire attacks Emiko's way, but she dodged them all and sent back some more cutting winds their way. The second batch of wind that was sent the Konoha nin's way was dodged instead of blocked. They also managed to surround Emiko due to her being preoccupied with her flinging gusts of wind their way. Once she was fully surrounded, the shinobi let loose some of their own jutsu. This time some of them were able to hit home, which sent her flying, and landing in a heap several feet away. Upon seeing their small victory, the morale of the high forces rose. If they could take out the other 3, the battle would be a victory in their favor. While they were busy celebrating their minor victory, they failed to realize that their opponent was not down for the count. She was merely winded and was picking herself back up off of the ground. Her twin fans were attached to her arms via straps, which made sure that she never lost them in a fight. While the shinobi were distracted with their minor celebration, she unleashed another set of cutting winds their way, ending their lives in mid-laugh. After she was sure that they were down for the count, never to see the light of day again, or breathe the fresh air of the world once more, she made haste in search of another group of shinobi that she could cut to ribbons using her sly winds. She made her way to a bunch of shinobi that were pounding on a barrier being held in place by 4 mages. These mages looked like if nothing were done to help them, they would run out of energy to keep the barrier up. Upon reaching the shinobi, she coated her fans with wind-natured chakra and SD up the shinobi with her fans, foregoing the use of jutsu or and wind entirely. After making sure that the mages were fine, she went off to the next group of shinobi that were harassing another group of mages. As she ran, some of the archers got it into their mind to try and snipe her, which was a bad thing to do. Upon noticing what the archers were attempting to do, she diverted her attention temporarily to the archers and blew cutting winds in the direction of the archers, blowing away not only the arrow that had been let loose, but also blowing the archers off of the wall as well. When she was done with that and sure that the other archers would not follow in the footsteps of their fellows, she returned to her shinobi hunting. Running to another group of shinobi, the one that was harassing another group of mages, she arrived and decapitated one of them, and SD off the limbs of another. Turning around in place, she split the torso of a third from his lower half. The other shinobi jumped away to avoid any further injury and pelted her with fireballs, and a number of kunai and shuriken. All of them missing their mark. Thinking quickly, Emiko lashed out at the shinobi that were hurling projectiles at her. She sent gusts of wind which they avoided. She then used the wind to propel her to the nearest shinobi and esped him through the heart with one of her fans. Springing away from that position just as one of the shinobi landed where she previously stood. The shinobi was an akamaki, which was obvious due to his use of the spiked meat tank technique. She landed right in front of one of the other nin. This one promptly grabbed her and held her in place. He used chakra to make sure that she could not escape. His allies did not waste any time in attacking her. They did not bother using any jutsu and just rushed her. Fists and kunai would have impacted with her body had it not been for the arrival of several of the Rosuto pikemen. These men thought that since they were soldiers they might as well fight. There were more than enough to finish building the siege towers. These men skewered the rushing shinobi, and one even managed to decapitate the nin that had a firm hold on the general. "Amiko-sama, you may be our general, but even you need help sometime," one of the pikemen said. "Thanks for the help, help out the others while I do the same," Amiko said before rushing toward another group of shinobi. "Hi," was the reply of the pikemen, then they too rushed away in groups in order to subdue or just outright kill any enemy shinobi they could find. While Amiko was having her fun running around helping the mages, Toru was having a blast. He lit his whip on fire and had it spin around in the air. This action caused a vortex of fire to appear around him as he ran around the battlefield. He incinerated any that were foolish enough to go near him. By the time that he had made his way to the wall, shinobi were not the only ones on the battlefield, there were a number of samurai there as well. Samurai and shinobi were able to use their energies to deliver destructive attacks. They just channeled their energies differently. Some of the samurai that Toru had encountered fought in the same manner as Amiko, and sent cutting winds in his direction. The problem was that the wind just made the vortex stronger, the flames hotter, and made it spin faster. Using his own chakra to fuel the vortex, Toru stopped spinning his whip and lashed out at the nearest samurai. The whip wrapped around the man and with a pull cut him into pieces. Cracking the whip produced a sound so loud that some of the samurai in his vicinity found their ears bleeding. Others were hit by the wave of fire that leapt off of the whip. Toru ran as near to the wall as he could get, then he spun his whip around again, and then in one motion used his whip to propel the flaming tornado and made it travel the length of the wall. He then created another flaming tornado and whipped it in the opposite direction. The Tower of Power was not hot enough to burn through the walls, but it was hot enough to force the archers on the walls to jump off lest they wished to get burned. This bought the mages some time to recover. Toru believed that Yuji and his sister could handle the battlefield, so he decided to jump up onto the walls and cause some death and destruction on the inside. After all, they had nowhere to go, and one of the best opponents were those that were trapped between a rock and a hard place. Once he made it up on the wall, he noticed several things. One was that there were several arrows speeding towards his direction. 2, several samurai were heading his way with katanas drawn, and 3, his whip had gotten caught on a piece of the wall. Thinking quickly, he decided to let his whip be for now, and moved to intercept the samurai. He paid the incoming arrow no mind. When he reached the first samurai, he plunged his chakra-covered fist through the man's chest, then leapt over him and sent the man behind him crashing to the ground in 2 pieces thanks to a chakra-covered and powered leg drop or heel stomp. Unlodging his fist from the first man's chest, he backflipped back to his original position and pulled on the whip, forcing it to cut through the piece of the wall that it was stuck on. The whip then moved and sent a wave of flame in the direction of the arrows and ended up wrapping itself around the end of another samurai. Quicking pulling the whip, the samurai was decapitated. While still moving the whip, Toru cracked it, which caused the men remaining samurai that were rushing him to fall to their knees. He then curled his whip, and attached it onto his waist in one motion. Then he ran toward the remaining samurai and proceeded to kick their chins hard enough to send them flying, but not hard enough to kill them. After all, he needed to have some people to fight in the future. Toru went through the defenders like a hot knife through butter. He was quick, he was flaming hot, and he was AS away from the siege engines, his hands acting like blades as they were coated in a thin layer of wind chakra. He SD away at all the opponents that ran at him, killing some, maiming others, and simply leaving others too injured to continue, but with some medical attention they would survive and live to fight another day, hopefully against him. Most of the ones that he had been leaving alive were the samurai who valued honor, and were very prideful even though they would never admit it. Toru had a thing for attacking the ego and the pride of his enemy. The lost honor was just too easy to do compared to those 2 other things. As he finally reached the first catapult, Toru let loose a few cracks of his flaming whip on the thing. He made sure to hit only the contraption and not the people manning it. Once he was done, he turned his attention to the 4 people manning it, dousing the flames with his chakra. He let loose a few hits on the 4 men, severing 1 limb each. The tip of his whip was covered in some healing chakra that made sure to create a stump instead of a gaping blood-spewing wound. He then made his way over to the next catapult. On the way he met with much resistance. He cut him down the same way as he did with the still shell-shocked catapult personnel. As he reached the second catapult, he made minced meat out of it as well, then proceeded to cut off at least 1 limb off of its operators as well. Then he proceeded to the next and to the next and to the next. After ridding the wall of a great number of catapults, Toru grew bored and decided to call it a day and head back to base. As he was about to jump up the wall, he was abruptly stopped mid-jump by a hand that grabbed onto his foot and threw him in the opposite direction of the wall. The hand belonged to a shinobi that stood at an even 6 feet tall. He had a muscular build. He didn't appear to be built for speed but for strength. He wore the standard Konoha Junin attire, and in his other hand he carried a club, one that was as long as he was tall. He had a darker skin tone than most Konoha shinobi, and was bald. "Who in Hella's name are you?" Toru asked the man that threw him, after he regained his balance and footing after crashing into a number of crates, barrels, samurai, and one catapult that was being repaired. "I care not to know your name, and you should care not to know mine, demon. I wish not for your demonic soul to haunt me after I have sent you back to hell. What makes you say that I am a demon? You have no honor, and I know for a fact that only a demon would find happiness and glee in ending the lives of many in as cruel a manner as you have in this battle. I am no different from you, shinobi, I am no different from you. I am a warrior, yet I care to know your name, that when I have sent you to the afterlife, I may pray for you. I want need the prayers of a lying heathen. I am not going to rest this day filth, you are, you and those underlings of yours. Ignorance or indifference, it matters not to me which one you have chosen, but know this, I, Mushitoru, swear on the blood of all of those that I have sent to the afterlife that you will not leave this battle alive. It is the other way around, demon. I will walk away, you will not. Arrogant to the bitter end, eh? Well then, have at you. Toru shouted as he ran at the Junin, his hands alight with wind and fire chakra, the power to S through nearly anything, and the power to burn nearly anything. The Junin anticipated the charge, so at the precise moment that he knew Toru would be in front of him, he swung his club onto where he knew the general to be, only for him to miss his target by a not so literal mile, more like by a centimeter. Toru knew that he had to borrow a few tactics from his brother-in-law. When facing someone like his opponent, one would have to employ as much unpredictability as he could muster. Dodging to the left, he struck, only for his hand to hit a fist. Spinning around on one heel, he sent a kick aimed for the solar plexus of his opponent, only for his opponent to send the club crashing down on his leg. The shinobi then drove an elbow down on Toru's exposed head. This action sent Toru crashing face first into the ground. The Junin then prepared to finish the general off, but was too slow, for in the time it took him to raise his massive club, Toru had somehow jumped back onto his feet, and healed some of his injuries. He then cut the flow of elemental chakra to his hands and uncurled him whip. By the time that the Junin realized that his downed target was not where his elbow left him, he looked around only to see a flaming whip heading in his direction, the aim being not to wood, but to wrap around and brutal cut into bloody pieces. A quicker ease of the incoming attack, the Junin poured some chakra into his arm muscles to boost his swing speed and allowed his weapon to be the one to be captured by the flaming whip. With his superior strength, he pulled his club in an attempt to pull Toru toward him. This tactic did not work, since instead of Toru being pulled, the strength in the pull and the chakra powering the whip caused the club to be SD into pieces. Realizing that his club would not help him in the fight, the Junin grabbed what little of the whip that was still within his reach, and pulled on that. He did not mind that pain that coursed through his hand and arm, he just pulled. Toru reacted by sending spasms of chakra to the tip that was being held in order for the hand to be rendered useless, and the whip be let go and allowed to return to him. Sensing that something was not right, the Junin let go of the whip at the last second. He then jumped back a few feet and flew through a seal set, after having finally remembering that he was a shinobi and not some brawler. Doton, Tsuchi Kairo. The Junin shouted as he slammed his palms on the ground. This caused the earth around Toru to quickly rise up and entomb him in it, but also giving him only one way out. Kaiten, Ryuka no Jutis. The Junin shouted in his mind as he let out a stream of molten hot fire into the dome that held Toru. The dome would serve as an oven to cook the general. But since Toru had experienced and come across many things in his long life, he knew that staying still and doing nothing would be the death of him. So while the dome formed around him, he dove into the earth utilizing one of the Doton jutsu that he knew. He surfaced outside the dome just as the Junin had blown out the molten flames. Toru then ran behind the Junin, wrapped the whip around the Junin that had just noticed his presence and garroted the man. What a waste, and I never got to know his name. Toru thought to himself as he cleaned his whip using the flames that his chakra could produce. Yuji was not having a good time. The shinobi that he had to fight on the battlefield were nothing like he had imagined them. He knew, fought, and saw what shinobi were capable of. There were a few of the hostile sort that had somehow found their way into Rosuto no Kuni. Those few had gotten it into their heads to try and K him. Something about dragons and other such drivel. Well, those ones actually stood a chance of beating him, had he not always been in the company of either one of his clansmen or one of his friends. But these insects that dared call him shinobi were nothing like those assassins. These were just glorified brawlers. They only had ninjutsu to their name, most of which were too flashy to be of any use when trying to be stealthy. Yuji found it disappointing that all that he came across did not pose much of a threat to him. Sure, some of them acted in what is known as Konoha's infamous teamwork potential, but still, having shinobi anus their techniques was a bit stupid. That was a blatant display of idiocy. Yuji would not stand for such, so every time he heard the name of a jutsu he drove his claws into the shinobi's mouth, king him or her instantly. As he was about to just call down the dragons to send down the apocalypse, he met someone that looked to be worth king, or at the very least ending the ninja career of. It was a kunoiki that Yuhi Kurenai, the only difference being that she had spinning windmills in her eyes around her pupil. Her eyes resembled those of the Sharingan, the only difference being that they were not tomo, but 3 windmill blades spinning freely in each eye. And who might you be? Yuji asked the woman who barred his way. If you want to know my name, you should first introduce yourself, the kunoiki said. Ah yes, I apologize for not having realized that kunoiki have more brains than the average shinobi. I am Kuriku Yuji, Rosuto no Kuni's Dragon Master. Nice to meet you, I am Fuusha Mai, Junin. Shall we? Let's, Yuji said as he bowed. After the 2 warriors bowed, Mai began her attack. She didn't move from her spot, instead she thrust her arms forward. From around her the wind instantly picked and Fuma shurikens made out of wind was sent in Yuji's direction. Instead of dodging the attacks, Yuji coated his claws with chakra and SD through all the shurikens that would have hit him had he done otherwise. How'd you know that if you moved my weapons would follow? Mai asked. I've encountered your clan in the past, Yuji answered. Yuji then jumped into the air and surrounded himself with wind chakra of his own which propelled himself in Mai's direction. Controlling the wind around her, Mai formed a couple more Fuma shurikens and deflected Yuji. Who of my clan did you fight? Mai asked once she saw that Yuji was back where he stood when their fight began. I battled Fuusha Marui, Yuji answered as he SD apart several hundred regular-sized Fuyuten shuriken, although I did not K him. Then who did? Mai asked as she called down a tornado and directed it in Yuji's direction. Rosuto Naruto did, Yuji shouted while he was flung here and there inside the tornado. He shielded himself from the cutting gale force winds by coating his body in his own whirlwind of chakra. Who's he? Mai asked while she dodged the fireballs that were spat in her direction from the man spinning in her tornado. He's that nut job that went on that mini king spree before round 3. Yuji shouted over the noise that the tornado that he was still in was making. He threw one of his claws at Mai, and controlled its movements with a chakra cable. I can believe that, Mai said as she dodged the dragon claws that were tailing her, all the while keeping the tornado alive, and sending fireballs back to the Yuji, hoping to roast him in the tornado. So what makes you think that you can beat me? My fight with Marui was over 100 years ago, Yuji said from his place on the ground. The tornado had finally dissipated after the chakra cable cut through it, while he controlled his claw to follow Mai. Impossible. He only disappeared a decade ago, Mai said, as she prepared to call down another tornado, her eyes doing all the summoning, while her hands sent out wires of lightning racing across the ground heading for her opponent. Rosuto no Kuni is literally the land of the lost. Most lost people and things end up there, lost in time too, Yuji stated as played hopscotch with the lightning wires. So, what are you saying? Mai said as she dodged a few water bullets that flew in her direction, one of which hit one of her hands, electrocuting her slightly. Are you immortal of something? Well, not immortal per se, just something like that is all, Yuji admitted, all the while throwing mud balls at the slightly spasming Konoha nin. Since, I know you don't plan on KNG me, drop off on the wall would you? Mai asked as she slumped to the ground nearly unconscious. Maybe next time, you'll bring some soldier pills, NE. Yuji said while he kneeled down beside the kunoiki. I'll try to, so, she said before slipping into chakra exhaustion caused bliss. We'll finish our fight next time, Yuji said as he picked her up and brought her to the walls. There goes the idea of king someone worthy, Damn the fun of the fight. Damn. Yuji thought, since he was unable to K someone worthy of death by his claws, he had too much fun in the fight, and wanted to experience something like that again. As the battle was finally drawing to a close, the defending side having more casualties than the invaders, Yuji, Amiko, and Toru called for a full retreat, all the while ordering the builders to drop what they were doing, since it was highly unlikely that the defenders would venture from behind what remained of their walls. The shinobi forces could run out and snatch some part of the yet-to-be-finished siege towers, but there were just too many parts for all of it to be hauled back behind the walls. There was also the possibility that some of the mages had left some traps in case the high forces tried their hands at theft. There were still shinobi on the battlefield while the invaders began their retreat. They were all ordered to just run back as fast as their legs could carry them, and in some cases wings, which is what they did. But in order to ensure their safe return to their side of the playing field, Rosuto Naruto decided that it would be fun to play with the other pawn in the little war. Naruto threw his ninjato and katana unsheathed into the air. He then created two kagebushin to grab hold of the two blades and mess up the pursuing shinobi that were on the battlefield. After those two had bagged the job, Naruto created 100 more, all of which were primed and ready to engage the pursuing shinobi. The shinobi were shocked when they found out that the invaders knew one of their kinjutsus, and had enough chakra to use it to such a degree. But that did not convince them that retreating back behind the walls was a good idea. They just continued their path, thinking that they were somehow stronger, not counting all the lives that were lost, but still thinking that they were superior to the invaders, which wasn't true seeing as before round 3, they were all scared less by the one guy that was barring them access from the retreating invaders. Konoha Nin, let's dance. Naruto shouted, along with his clones. They charged right into the enemy, meeting them head-on, fist to fist, foot to foot, elbow to elbow, head to head. The force that 50 of the clones used in their charge was enough to force the Konoha Nin to fly back several feet. The other 50 belched out a few fire dragons, and fireballs, all of which flew at the onrushing Konoha Nin. The Konoha Nin in turn, due to being overexposed to the use of Kaiten jutsus, were somewhat prepared for the fiery onslaught. They raised up earth walls to defend themselves, some even countered with their own jutsu. The retreat was swift, and the delaying and distraction tactics employed by Naruto were very effective. The high shinobi forces were down 250 people. They weren't but they wouldn't be able to fight for a long while, say about half a year's worth of bed rest, then around another half a year of living like a civilian, then another year to get back to genin standards, and so on and so forth. Back at the invaders' side, the Rosuto forces were celebrating a well-fought battle. There was singing, cheering, eating, and drinking going on all over the camp and base structure. Even the 4 generals were celebrating, in their own little ways. Amiko had encountered a few close calls and went to bed earlier than her husband. The 3 men decided to play Monopoly for a few hours. They decided to allow the defenders some time to rebuild the defenses. Short battles are boring, they wanted there to still be some kind of challenge factor. I wonder what Kar-san is faring up north. Naruto wondered out loud. Tsukiko was his stepmother, and he really did wonder what went on over on that battlefield. They're fine, I'm sure, Yuji said. Toru, roll the dice already. Hi, patience is a virtue, you don't see Konsu complaining, Toru said, referring to the new Fu communications operator that was playing with them. Toru-sama, it's been 10 minutes already, please roll the dice, Konsu said, finally letting his frustration and dwindling patience be known. Fine. Toru then rolled the dice, which resulted in his third double roll. Crap. Ha. See, your luck still sucks, Naruto said. Not everyone's had the chance to be kissed by Benton, Yuji said. So that's not a legend? Konsu asked. What's not a legend? Toru asked. Naruto-sama being kissed by Benton. Yeah, it's true. Imuoto kicked forbade him from eating ramen for 3 weeks after it happened, Toru said. How'd it happen anyway? The real story? Konsu asked, curious. Naruto. Yuji said. Fine. I made a bet with Two-sama, about who had better luck, to see which of the two of us had better luck. Two-sama proposed that we each kiss a girl of his choosing. Whoever gets a worse punishment afterwards is the loser. So Tosan had someone come over to be kissed. Little did I know that I had already lost, since apparently Tosan has enough luck to seduce the goddess of luck herself. He'd apparently been sharing his luck with her for years, and well Karsan had grown used to it, and well Emi-chan hadn't. So, yeah, never doing that again. I tried to trick Tusama, but underestimating him is a bad idea. Didn't think it was like that. I thought that it had something to do with a challenge made by the gods themselves which culminated in having to kiss the goddess of luck to get back some lost luck or something like that, Konsu said. Konsu, you think too much. Roll already. I wanna get out of jail sometime in the next hour. Toru said. Sure, but I gotta have a little bathroom break, so if you'll excuse me for a moment, Konsu said as he left the playing area. No, Konsu. Get back here. Toru shouted, since a part of the game to make it more challenging was that if someone landed in jail they would be forced to sit in a cramped box until they got out of jail. Relax Toru, you've been in there for what, 10 times? You should have gotten used to it by the 5th time, Naruto said, while holding himself back from openly bursting out laughing at his friend's predicament. Yuji had had enough and just burst out chuckling. Naruto couldn't take it and joined in. Amiko woke up from her sleep, saw Toru, and joined in on the laughing. I hate you guys, Toru said, just as Konsu returned from his bathroom break. What did I miss? Konsu asked. Nothing, don't mind them, just roll the dice, Toru said. Konsu, you're one of his, so just roll the dice before he demotes you or something, Yuji said after calming down a little, but maybe a few more minutes of waiting will teach him some patience. So not funny Yuji, just roll the dice already Konsu, Toru said. Konsu, just roll the dice, it's not like letting him out sooner rather than later will threaten your position, Amiko said after assessing her brother's assets. Hey Toru, if you stay in there longer, you'll get to keep what little money you still have longer, Naruto said. But if you really want out that badly, I'll sell you my get out of jail free card in exchange for boardwalk, Yuji said. Never. Toru declared. I'll roll, if you give me your one red lot, Konsu negotiated. Quote. Fine. Not like that'll hurt me any, no one lands there anyway, Toru agreed. After getting out of jail the first spot that Toru landed on was the red lot that he had traded away. I hate you, Toru said grumbling, one of you rigged the dice, I just know it. Naruto, I'm watching you. I can't help it, if you have no luck with these kinds of games, Naruto said. Oni-chan, just smile, and enjoy the game, it's not like you've been in there a lot, Amiko said, since she was not aware that her brother always gets put in jail at least 20 times every time he played Monopoly. HMPH, fine, let's just play, I still have boardwalk, Toru said. Yeah, but I got the other one, Naruto said. I really hate you, Toru said. He was greeted by laughter and giggles. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.